Joy Behar was trying to say that I believe in dragons.
This guy, Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons.
He said, I checked it.
I checked it.
And the lady goes, did you double check it? She goes, I checked it. He believes in dragons.
Did you triple force that?
Yes, I did.
When you're worried about losing your job and you're worried about podcasts taking over and who's the source of news, and we said Donald Trump was Hitler, but half the country disagreed with us and he won, and this is and Joe Rogan believes in dragons.
Oh, Rogan has responded to Joy Behar's claim that he believes in dragons, and his response is funny. He didn't mince words, and she really did deserve it. Before we get into it, let's talk about Kamala Harris. After spending $1.5 billion in 100 days, losing the election in a humiliating way, and racking up $20 million in debt, she is already considering a second bid for president in 2028. Really? You can't make this stuff up? Now, let's get started. I'll begin by showing the video from The View when Joy Behar spreads false information about Joe Rogan's belief in dragons in an effort to undermine him.
But I think that that's why people like our show, because they know that we are checked by ABC News. But
We're checked by everybody.
Yeah, I mean, if we're wrong, we have, the legal note here.
The human legal.
But we went from Walter Cronkite, basically, to this guy, Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons. I checked it. He believes in dragons? He believes in dragons.
Did you triple force that?
Yes, I did. And he also thinks that dragons, like dinosaur-y type of animals, roamed the earth when people did. So this is the type of really, really bad information that's going out.
After claiming that The View is a trustworthy source of information since ABC double-checks it, Joy Behar goes on to make a claim that was clearly unchecked. Why? Because it is out of context and wholly false. But here is Joe Rogan's great response to her folly.
I had to read the thing about The View because I just thought it was funny.
What's
That's
this
the
video?
only reason why I read that about me.
Dragon lover.
Joy Behar was trying to say that I believe in dragons.
Wait, what is this? I just
She
heard
said,
about
I checked it. And the lady goes, did you double check it? She goes, I checked it. He believes in dragons.
Should be like
you think they live
Sasquatch,
alongside
bitch.
of people. This is the most important part. This is right after she was saying, we are run by ABC News. You should trust us, not Joe Rogan, who believes in dragons. So she
What?
by saying we should trust them because they're double checked by ABC News, and then making the stupidest fucking statement. Like you didn't listen to what I said.
It is in fact completely hypocritical. Just before she makes her comments about Joe Rogan, she says, "We're factual, we're checked, we're reliable, so you should believe what you hear on The View." She then goes on to say something that is completely false and easily verifiable. The irony is powerful. Let's be honest, this show is infamous for its persistent incitement of fear, misinformation, and ethnic divide. But Joe Rogan doesn't pretend to be a news outlet. He only converses with subject matter experts, often straying into theoretical, philosophical debates based on their expertise. In that particular encounter, he was talking to a wildlife biologist. They were discussing how dragons were often depicted in cultures across many countries and all over the world. Could these myths have been inspired by a large alligator or another similar creature? But Joe Rogan never professed to believe in dragons or to have any solid evidence to back up such claims. Here, Joe Rogan provides the actual context of the discussion, something Joy Behar could have easily confirmed or had fact-checked by ABC, but chose not to. Why? Because she wanted to portray him as an untrustworthy conspiracy theorist who operates a far-right platform that spreads misleading information.
My position is it's probably crocodiles or some big Komodo dragon or some big lizard that did kill people.
Close one.
And so people fought them with swords and shit, and they came back with a story, and then the artist drew it. And these
if you
things
saw one of those at night and you had a stick, it'd be like,
All
I fought
throughout-
a pterodactyl.
all
I
throughout
thought a
these
picture
same
of Joe Rogan and a unicorn.
all throughout these same time periods, there's been giant lizards. All throughout these same time periods, there've been Komodo dragons. There's been crocodiles. Been here for fucking hundreds of million years or whatever they've been for. Probably
money.
more. So the idea that people didn't encounter giant reptiles is stupid. And then there's the other thing is like people were really bad at describing things that they'd never seen before. So if you're a European traveler and you go to the Nile River and you see a fucking crocodile, like, what is that?
Take a guy.
Yeah, what is that?
The dragon issue was not primarily about proving the existence of dragons. The goal was to find out how different cultures throughout the world depicted giant flying lizards in a similar way. However, if you're one of the ladies on The View and you know that your show is about to be canceled and your ratings are declining, the only way to stay relevant is to trash and attack your competitors. Terrible. But even Joe Rogan is aware of the true situation, so he gives her one more piece of his mind. All they want is to continue their cozy jobs, pretending to be respectable news outlets while lying, laughing, and having pointless conversations.
When you're worried about losing your job and
Yeah.
you're worried about podcasts taking over and who's the source of news and we said Donald Trump was Hitler, but half the country disagreed with us and he won and this is fucking great and Joe Rogan believes in dragons. It's just frantic. It's
Bro,
foolish.
if you
I just want to say for the record, I have no hate for Joy Behar. If I saw her, I'd give her a hug. I don't care. I'd probably say the same thing about me if I was her. It's no big deal. I don't care. But it's a silly thing to say, and it undermines your own personal credibility.
Yeah.
If you say we're so good because we're supported by ABC News, and then you say Joe Rogan believes in dragons in the next sentence.
And no chance she comes back and goes, oh, guys, I was wrong.
No
Somebody told me the
chance.
wrong shit.
Joy Behar really hurt herself with that remark. Furthermore, if The View were a thriving show, it might not have the same impact. But when you're close to cancellation, any little error might be the difference between survival and failure. Speaking of difficult situations, let's talk about Kamala Harris. Her candidacy was a complete failure. She was clearly drunk, high, or both when she made her first public appearance after her humiliating surrender speech, which was captured on camera. If you'd like, you can check out the video. I produced about it. It's humorous and bizarre. But despite that embarrassing blunder, losing $1.5 billion, accruing $20 million in debt, and losing the election easily, the Democratic Party still seems to think she should run again. Hear this Democrat strategist's predictions for Kamala's political future on MSNBC. Look at it.
What else can you report, I should say, about what the vice president's planning to do as a second act?
First she has to decide what to do, right? What we know is that over the holidays, both Thanksgiving when she was in Hawaii and then wherever she ends up going, spending time with family for Christmas, those are some of the conversations that they're going to have, both with family and senior aides and advisors. The very first step that she has to figure out is what does it look like to be her while Donald Trump is president again. If we remember, one of the reasons why she became so popular was because of her interactions in committee hearing rooms with Bill Barr or any other nominee from President Trump. So is she going to continue out of office being the tip of the spear of the resistance? Her speech yesterday to supporters and also her concession speech all kind of had the same theme, which is she's sticking around, which that's exactly what she's telling friends and allies that she's calling and thanking them for their support over the last few months. So that's step one. Then it's deciding what does the next part of her future look like. Is it political? Does she go and run a think tank? Does everything on the table? One thing that everyone is certain of that we talked to is that one, she's too young to leave political life, but they couldn't really figure out what the next step made the most sense. What's interesting is Harris is more popular now than she was before she ran for president. That's not something that typically happens. And when you talk to Democrats, not many of them are blaming her for the loss, right? They know that it was 107 days, and they nitpick about some of the other things, but it wasn't her as a candidate that they weren't impressed by. And so when you look at 2028 and the names that are kind of bounced around, she has the biggest name ID of any of them for obvious reasons. California governor, also on the table. She's wanted that job for a long time. It would be the most power that she's had in elected office, but there is the sense around some of her allies and aides that it might be a step back, right? Publicly, right? Her as vice president, almost being president, and then going back to be governor of a state. And that's one of the things that they're tussling with right now.
I really thought that we wouldn't have to see or talk about Kamala Harris again after this heartbreaking loss. I do hope, however, that she just stays in politics in California. Let them deal with her woke identity politics there. The rest of the United States does not need to be afflicted. I don't understand why people are still pushing the narrative that Kamala Harris was the perfect candidate who did all she could in her short time, and that it wasn't her fault. She lost. The American people and we all know that she is the only one responsible. She was very unlikable and inauthentic. In fact, nobody supported her. Her main campaign issue was abortion rights, and it was completely anti-Trump. But here's the issue: abortion access had already been restored in many states. Even if she had tried to recodify it as federal law, it would never have happened. Let's say she had won and Donald Trump was defeated. Republicans would still have controlled the Senate and the House. So when she got there, her border bill would have been dead. Her abortion bill? The same thing. The issue she claimed was most important was never something she could deliver on. It was all false. Additionally, it's absurd that they're acting like this was a setback for her. She was vice president, almost won the presidency, and is now being considered as a possible governor of California. That is not a setback, but a major political demotion. She would be falling down the ladder rather than climbing it. To be honest, that's exactly what she deserves. California's governorship is much more distinguished than she merits. She should have to start again and work her way up. Maybe as a town mayor or something. But the real reason they fear her running for governor? They know she will lose. And if she loses again, it will be the final nail in her political coffin. It's important to remember how Kamala Harris got to where she is now. She didn't rise through the ranks due to charisma, policy ideas, or her ability to win voters. No, she was a hand-picked diversity hire. Her status as the first woman of color on the ticket was meant to appeal to voters. But guess what? It didn't work. Her candidacy was a total flop from the start. She struggled to articulate herself, appeared completely out of character, and faltered on all key issues. Kamala Harris was never widely trusted. She focused more on identity politics than real issues. As VP, she failed to address the border crisis, delayed her visit, blamed others, and achieved nothing. Her speeches were empty, filled with scripted, meaningless rhetoric. Yet Democrats still push her as a viable candidate out of desperation. The truth is, Harris is a liability. If she runs for governor, she'll rely on name recognition, but voters are tired of empty promises. If she loses, it could end her political career, perhaps the best outcome for her party. Instead of propping up failed politicians, Democrats should focus on real solutions. Harris was chosen for diversity, not merit. She flopped in the primaries, remains unpopular, and would likely lose again in 2028. So what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you don't want to miss out on the hottest celebrity news, make sure to subscribe to Daily Finder